And there we go. So today we're gonna take a look and review. Oh, do you two know each other, right? No?
No,
Stas?
I just read the news that Stanislav is becoming another
Maintainer.
administrator or
Maintainer.
Yeah.
maintainer, right?
Bernardo's been a very prolific contributor to especially to DDEV.com, but other things as well. And so you'll see him around just plenty. So
Yeah, I saw Alberto
Yeah, nice to meet you.
previously and on DDEV.
and I'm actually confused about that too. I've been confusing Alberto and Bernardo. So I apologize for that. In fact, I might have called you Bernardo when you arrived, but it told me who you were, so I probably didn't. But I have been confusing you with Bernardo. So it's hard when you have all these online identities and and then everybody has a handle, and then everybody has and then you see them in person, or you see them at a conference, and you're like, ooh, I hope I don't, do I have any idea who this person actually is, and when did I meet them before, and what is their handle online, and shouldn't I know them, and all those things. So, okay, so I have an outline for today's training, and I will give it to you here. Here's the web link. I'm going to put it in the chat. Here, and that's the outline. We actually did the first part, which is very important. Turning on the recording. And you're both invited to Amplitude, so you can actually take a look at this. We're going to talk about the basics and where they come from and all the rest of that. But and of course, you as invited users, it would be great to have somebody grow into Amplitude to where they could maintain these things a little better and actually understand the whole breadth of Amplitude. But when you work in Amplitude, since you have logins, you actually have the capability to ruin everything. So be respectful and responsible as you normally are. So that's great. I should invite Paul Gilzo too, since he's coming. Hang on just a second. Okay, got him invited. So I will share my screen so that I don't just blab on and on as if you're looking at it. And I'm going to share my whole screen because I can never remember anything otherwise. And you should see the outline. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I'll get rid of the pictures of you. So the basic thing here is that, and I think both of you probably know about this, that the opt-in analytics have been part of DDEV for many years. They used to be sent to segment.io, which then sent them, it was like an intermediary or distribution platform, which then sent them to Amplitude. But Segment raised their prices quite a bit, and it wasn't something that was sustainable. And so Simon Gilly redid it to send those things directly to Amplitude, and that went into v1.22. We currently in v1.23 are sending to both places, so we have both kinds of analytics. That should be removed in v1.23. We'll take a look at that. So let's take a look at how the opt-in works. I have to get rid of more here. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. So if we do a DDEV config global, we will see the instrumentation opt-in equals true. And do both of you have that enabled, or do you allow instrumentation to be sent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't, of course, know how many people do. I would guess maybe 80% of people do. If you have it set to false, then it asks you on a new release whether you would allow it to be enabled. But we don't. So I guess my guess, just based on the number of people who are hardcore privacy people, would be that 20% of the people are hardcore privacy and would leave that turned off, which is, of course is their right. The opt-in, you know where it is, and version upgrades is where it's asked for. Now let's take a look at what happens with instrumentation events and what they look like. They're cached. So the default is that 100 actions happen before these actually get sent. And we can take a look at those. If we do, we could have just done DDEV verbose equals true and then done a DDEV command, but I'll just do this. And I'm going to do a DDEV start. I'll do a DDEV list here instead. And we see the event here with the contents of the event being with having the additional event added to it. So you see that it has the track information about the project. It has a device ID and a product ID, and then it has the project information like the PHP version and that sort of thing. If I do a DDEV start, let's see if that's probably too much stuff. Let's do a DDEV exec ls. This is the project event, but there should be a command event. Here's the command event here that shows what the details about the command were. So it should say in there exec somewhere. I wonder if this is. So here's the command and the command path we see here. Yeah, Alberto, go ahead.
So, sorry, one question. This is the debug information, right?
This is the instrumentation information. Yeah, we have. So what we're doing here is we've set DDEV verbose equals true so that we can see this stuff happening. But
which setting? Sorry, I missed that one.
Sorry?
Which setting do we have to set for seeing this extra information?
So there's two environment variables that you may want to use from time to time. So DDEV verbose equals true gets you an enormous amount of useless information, and this is one of them.
Okay.
The other one that you might want to use sometime is DDEV debug equals true, which shows a bit more information that's a little more tolerable. But DDEV verbose will show you the amplitude information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we can see what's going on, and if we keep going, let me just, since there's just the three of us, I can show you a little bit more detail about this than we would show to a larger group. You see here that it said it wrote 38 events. It pushed one new event to the cache. When we get to 100, that will push it up, and that's controlled by, in the .ddev directory, the tilde.ddev directory, the dot amplitude the amplitude cache is where it goes. The .state.yaml is, no, that's not it. Okay, where is it? I thought the remote config is what controls the stuff that shows on the ticker, the daily reminder about things. Oh, it's in the global config. I forgot about that. So the global config has messages config. It's not even shown here. Yeah. So you can change in the global config. There's a magic item that you can change that will change how often these get sent, and change them from being 100 to whatever. But I can do a DDEV debug. Let's see what it is. DDEV debug instrumentation flush. So I can do a DDEV debug instrumentation flush, and you will see these things get sent. And you see that instead of it being sent, we had a bug here, this unexpected EOF, which is something that we would like to fix in the next version. So that didn't actually work, but this is where it should work. Let's see what happens the next time we do it. And this time it worked. So that unexpected EOF is an open bug that will require some debugging. It's intermittent, but it happens often enough that we should be able to track it down with some debugging. So when we did that, it sent the information upstream to Amplitude, and so that is now up there. That wasn't on my list to look at. So so normally you would get 100 actions or 100 tracking. Probably it's actually 50, because there's a project and a command each time you go. And then I wanted to mention that the instrumentation events are sanitized, but if you find data there that you do not expect, then we want to do a PR and fix that. So for example, we don't show custom commands that, if a custom command is not one that we provide, then we show it as just a custom command. We'll see that in a minute. And there's no real concept of a user. There's no way to track down who a user is. But when you're testing, there is a magic configuration variable. So instrumentation user can be set in the global config. So let's go ahead and poke around. But first, questions or thoughts or anything else?
My only question is, I mean, I don't know anything about Amplitude. Can you do a little summary of this platform?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do right now. So we'll take a look at Amplitude and take a look at a summary of what it is and why, and show you what the resources are to learn about it. Any other thoughts or questions or anything about that? Okay. Let's see. I want to tell me if Paul gets here. Tell me if Paul has arrived. I'm not sure. Let's see if I can figure out how to see
here.
that. Oh, Paul's here. Is anybody else here? Anybody else new? I can only see myself right now. I guess because I'm there we go. I want to see. There we go. I got it. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Hey, Paul meets Stas and Alberto. I think you've met Alberto before,
Think so.
Hello.
but I don't think you've met Stas, who's
Hello.
the new maintainer.
Oh, okay.
And he's the one that is going to work on the Upsun integration, the
Okay.
full Upsun. And Paul is the guy who knows everything there is to know about platform and Upsun and WordPress and several other things in the world.
I don't know about that, but I'll take the compliment.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Paul, I sent you an invite to Amplitude as well.
Oh, I see now.
And so that means that you can actually go in here and do almost everything that we're about to do.
Okay.
And of course, I know you'll be respectful and careful not to
Touch me.
you would rather not do. So
Yes, I won't touch anything.
yeah, actually you can touch things all the time. Like we're going to touch things now.
Okay.
And it's actually amazingly fun. But just don't do the save unless you have unless you want to do the save.
Okay.
So I do that quite a lot to explore. It's really quite fun. So Amplitude is an analytics platform that takes the JSON stuff that we just saw being sent and allows us to try to explore all of that and come up with an understanding of our users and what they're doing and perhaps what they might be having trouble with or what's the most important. And the link that I use the most, this is a favorite dashboard. They have spaces and dashboards and something else, and I frankly don't completely understand why there are all the different things. Let me see if I can find the chat and put this link in there. That's the link that I always use to get started with the current stuff. So as you see, we have a whole bunch of charts here. These charts were developed as this thing has matured, and they tell us all kinds of interesting factoids. For example, in the last week, we have 4,000 users on 1.22.3, and the new 1.22.4 is gaining adherence with 1,100 in it. So that's super interesting to know. And of course, the operating system is always interesting to know. Mac is traditionally had more, but it is interesting that Linux shows 2,600, but we have more nuance on that with one of the other charts because Linux is going to show up for WSL2. Now we can look at commands. In a minute, we'll fiddle with this, and we'll look at these commands that have been done and see how we can look at that. Web server type doesn't seem as interesting anymore because it's very stable and behaves. But here's Nginx Unicorn with 47 usages. How about that? Paul and I have worked together on the Python support, and we're kind of sad that nobody seems to be using it, and we don't know who is using it or who might use it. But it was a priority for platform, but it is it's a little hard to use. So I don't know who those are coming from. I wish we could send each one of those a message saying, "Come help us understand how to make this better."
Yeah.
PHP versions, usually the default is what overwhelms all the others. The CMS project types is always super interesting to see. These are only, of course, the official or directly supported project types. You can see that a lot of people, almost the second most popular is to use the generic PHP type. And then the platform, so you can see that the Mac Apple Silicon is already almost a third of total people. Although this is a one-day thing. So let's just take a look at this one just for fun. So I don't think this is as useful as a one-day as it would be as a 7-day. So I'm just going to change that to a 7-day, because 7-day is what the other ones are showing us. So these are by basically by platform or project. So we aren't seeing as many of those, and I don't really care to see them. Yeah, so this is showing 10,000 users with about a third of them being ARM64 or Apple Silicon. Almost all of them are Apple Silicon. There are just a few people who use ARM64 Windows machines, and probably zero that use ARM64 Linux machines. So I prefer this one as a 7-day. So I'm going to do a save here. We'll just update that and it'll warn me. And that's if you make a useful change to something that you think everybody would appreciate, then save is what you do. But you can also do a save as and explore something, or just not save it. You just abandon it. So I do a save as, but I just go in there and explore things and then just abandon them instead of saving them. And we'll do that in a minute. Now let's go back. So we did actually just update that one with the architecture, and it doesn't show the change that we made, but who cares? So this is one of my favorite charts to see the reality of what's going on. We've got Mac and Linux and WSL2 and then Windows. And then you see the little tiny code spaces and Gitpod. Code spaces and Gitpod don't always report on this, although I think in the current version they are reporting. So that uses a special characteristic that we added called DDEV environment, so that we could see this, because these really are the environments that we're interested in. And then, of course, we're always interested in the Docker platform that people use. So here's, you see that the majority of people are using Docker CE because that's what we recommend. And then Docker Desktop, about a third. And then on Mac OS, this is interesting to see. Docker Desktop, of course, is what people think Docker is. And then Colima is what we've been recommending for some time. And then this is OrbStack, which is gaining in its market share like every day. It's coming up. OrbStack is becoming quite popular. And this is a brand new chart that I just figured out how to do preparing for this. This is add-ons that people are using. And I don't know about the, I don't know about how, about the full quality of this information, but it is believable. So this would say that the add-ons in the last 7 days, that lots of people use PHPMyAdmin. And then I was surprised to see Redis be next. And I'm surprised to see Adminer be third. Solar and Elasticsearch and Memcached I would expect to be there. DDEV cron. It's interesting how much people are using that one. And then I just discovered this one. I just discovered how to do this, preparing also for today. Looking at DDEV poll, we can see there's many other instances of DDEV poll, but these are the three major upstream ones. And so this is in the last 30 days, we see DDEV poll Pantheon, Platform, and Acquia, and how they relate. And that's interesting. I'm a little surprised because Platform is the easier one to use. Pantheon, you actually have to edit the file and fiddle with it. We want to improve that, but I thought it was super interesting. And then, of course, we have here the database server types and versions, and that's for the MySQL ones. Where did Postgres go, I wonder? Don't know where Postgres is. Looks like there's a problem with that one. So any questions about these existing charts?
No.
Well-
How can I access them? Because from my front page, when I log in, I don't see any link to that.
Yeah,
there
try the link, see if the link works that I just gave you in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I say, they have spaces, which is a place where people can share things. And I don't understand those. And they have dashboards and they have notebooks. So the only one that I use most of the time is the DDEV Direct dashboard, and that's the one that we're looking at right here. You can get
it works. Yes.
Yeah, you got there? Okay. So let's just go ahead and take a look at the commands one. And I totally understand this is baffling, because I spent quite a bit of time with this because I was afraid I would have forgotten it all. Amplitude is a huge, huge thing. I'm sure that there are many companies that have more than one full-time person whose job it is to study how to use this and use it. And of course, in a commercial environment, which this is aimed at mostly, you're trying to figure out how you convert users to paid users, how you trying to figure out what their workflow is. I mean, you could just spend your life poking around in here and trying to figure out all the different things. I am interested, but not that much. I mean, but it really does help us to understand who's using what. And so if we look, for example, at the commands one here, you see that drush, which is a Drupal command, it's the Drupal command line, the Drupal CLI, is overwhelming all of these. And I actually saw that and said, I think that's probably wrong, because I don't think people are probably using that more than DDEV list. And so I actually went out to the DDEV. We have a GitHub action for tests, and I made sure that instrumentation is turned off in everybody that uses that, because I'm not sure that it was turned off. Of course, we don't want tests reporting here. We want real people reporting. And so my theory is that this is coming from somebody's test environment, probably GitHub Actions test. I don't know that that's true, but we can edit this. See, here's all the editing over here, and we can do all the things that you would expect to be able to do. So they're currently grouped by command name. And I can filter this by command name. And it will give me all of the different things. And so I could remove, let's see, I'm going to say select all, but then I'm going to remove drush and remove none. And let's see what happens. So in this, so as we're studying this, we probably see drush overwhelming everything, and we want to get rid of it. And this is a way to do it. And I haven't saved this. I haven't broken anything. So this is the kind of exploration that I would love to have you do and contribute. And you can do a save as on these, and we can talk about, you know, adding them to dashboards and that kind of thing. So there's nothing wrong with saving. Just don't, you know, don't change anything in the dashboard without discussing it. But you can save it. You can save it, give it a good name, do all those things. But right now, I'm not interested in saving it. I'm just interested in looking what happens when I get rid of drush, because drush was kind of overwhelming what was there. So here, as I said, we bundle up custom commands, ones that we don't, that DDEV did not create. We bundle those into a category called custom command because there are privacy concerns with it, or privacy isn't exactly the right word, but maybe it is. People don't necessarily want other people to know what custom commands they've created.
Hey,
Let's hear.
Randy. Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
What's the command to the right of start in your list there?
Yeah,
That one.
that is a Saki is the CLI for one of the it's the CLI for one of the CMSs.
Oh.
But I can't remember which.
Okay, well that's fine. So it's like Drush, but for something else.
It's like Drush, but for something else. Maybe
Got
it's Laravel, right?
Maybe.
Nobody knows? Okay. Yeah, it's the CLI for one of them.
It's the only one I didn't recognize.
Yeah. The Magento's used both in Magento 2 and Magento 1. And of course, here's Xdebug. And I don't have any idea what __ complete is. So most likely, this one is either this one is probably a failure in the data that we are sending. And it's always interesting too to look beyond the things that are showing in the graph. So import DB, so we're getting down into the ones, here's artisan and config and power off and get and SQL Ace. So seeing the things that don't even make it on here can really inform us. Here's the platform command and Docker check and Blackfire. This is super interesting, but live, really? Now, here are things that I think might be data problems, because whatever prod full is, it's not provided by DDEV, and neither is this one. And so those must somehow be slipping through. Oh, I know what they are. They're the second level command. It's reporting the second level command. I know what that is. So I think what's going on is command here is being reported as the last thing on the command line. So DDEV debug instrumentation flush, I think flush would be what would be reported here. And I think we would find that. So I think that's probably what's wrong with this. So even though we're consolidating the first level command into custom commands, we are probably reporting the second level when people have a custom command that does something afterward, has an additional argument that that's where we're picking it up. And that may be where __core complete comes from as well. Anyway, so we just went and changed a filter to do a different kind of exploration, and we could have done more with that. And now I've done my exploration, and I'm willing to live with Drush being there for now. So we'll just take a look. We'll just go back to our main thing, abandon what we just did, and go ahead and poke around. The one that I just discovered how to do, the DDEV pull commands one, was super interesting because I didn't know that you could use command path here, so that you could see the whole command path. I thought you only had the first argument, like pull, and so that was super interesting. I can change that. Like I could say, I could clear that. And let's see, I think we don't have to check any of these. And then we could see what, here's DDEV Drush, which we would expect to show up there. So now these are mostly showing up in the same order that we had, but we may have some things that we'll discover that we wouldn't have discovered the other way. But you see, this DDEV __ complete is still there, and we have no idea what that is or why. So basically, we're learning the same kinds of things here that we learned in the other one, except, like here's DDEV pull live. So this is something that we should probably not be showing. So somebody has a custom provider integration called prod, and somebody has one called live. And we probably shouldn't be showing those. And here's one called ACC, and here's one called prod full, because and this is what ECEDI is, and that shouldn't be shown either. So we probably have to go in and sanitize, especially the pull command, so that it doesn't report things that aren't things that DDEV provided. So that's super interesting to be able to do that. Yeah, Alberto.
One question about this. So these commands are always valid commands in DDEV, or maybe there was a mistake that somebody input a wrong command and the tool is still send it to Amplitude?
That's an interesting question, and I don't know the answer, but I think I can find out the answer. If I do, we still have DDEV verbose turned on. So Paul, I think before you got here, we showed how to use export DDEV verbose equals true to get a mind-gaggling amount of information. And so now if I do a DDEV exec ls, for example, then we will see the amplitude event, which is why we were doing that. So there's so now I'm going to do that with a mistake. I'm going to say DDEV pull xxx, which doesn't exist, and it did report that. So probably we could go find that if we did a DDEV debug instrumentation flush. And waited a second. It's possible that now shows, that error now shows in the DDEV pull commands. I don't know whether it would be there yet. Let's just kill this. And I'm going to say filter by command path and XXX. And I don't DDEV pull XXX. I don't think that will work. No, but it may be that it just hasn't here. But it did look like it recorded it. So so the answer is maybe syntax errors do get reported. It looked like it was going to be. So it doesn't matter that I just broke that. I'm just abandoning it. And there we go. And we can go explore some more and learn some things. I don't ever assume that any of these charts are correct, because there are so many ways that you could configure them and screw up. But these are tracking and representative over, they seem like a reasonable, I believe that they are reasonable things. The ones that we have, like I say, this drush one here is probably not reasonable. If we look at total users, the idea that we probably have about 6,000 weekly users using DDEV 1.22 star is a reasonable thing. It's reasonable to believe that based on the recording that we have over time. But I would always recommend being suspicious about any analytics of this type, because number one, they could be reported wrong, but even more important, they can be, I have absolutely made mistakes in here before where it would report you can, let's see, what's a good example? In the architecture, you could use event totals instead of uniques. And we're only interested in uniques. And if we change it to event totals, then it goes to 117,000 on Friday, right? Which is not very useful, but that's probably the number of times that somebody used any DDEV command on an AMD 64 machine on Friday. So be suspicious. Be suspicious and have your head turned on and learn how to use the one that you want. There are a whole bunch here that I haven't used well. So for example, on commands, an interesting query is to change from any user to new users. So this will show new users within the last 7 days, show what they're using. And so these are smaller numbers, but this might teach us something about what new users do. And we see perhaps a little more of the mainline commands here. So trying to understand what users actually do is an absolutely great thing. Let me give you, let's see, I was going to demo yeah, so let's take a look at another dashboard this is a dashboard that uses this dashboard uses the segment data. So this also includes users that have not upgraded to 1.22. So this uses the data that's going through segment. So here we see that, let's take a look at the local versions, and let's change that to 7 days. And here we see that 1.22.3 is the highest, but look at what the second is. 1.21.6, we have, in the last 7 days, we have like 1,900 users who have not upgraded even to 1.22. And we have users that are reporting from 1.21.1 and 1.18.2 and 1.19.2. So there are, it's quite a surprise. Let's see what else is reported here. 1.21.5 alpha 1. We wish they weren't using that.
Randy,
Yeah.
can you cross-reference that piece of data with other data? So like if you look at, because like 118 is pretty old, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you look at those users and then see what they're running, or in some other way try to infer why they're on an older version?
You can do that. So if we wanted to look at if we wanted to filter by 1.18.1 on any of these, we can do it. An example might be, I don't know. Let's just go into database type here. And let's filter it. Let's see if we can do it. We should be able to filter by version. And the one that we were talking about is 1.18.1. And so now we can say in 1.18.1, what database type are they using, and would that make a difference? Probably wouldn't, but that is a demonstration about how to explore that. I don't know how to ask exactly the right question, but you can definitely specify that, and you can also do, let's see what we can do here. We can actually look at the streams of data from these people. So if we go to, and this is probably getting a little farther along than my best capabilities, and we're about to run out of time, but I do want to show it to you. If we go to in the old one, we only report DDEV start, and we don't report the other commands because segment was charging us quite a lot. And let's go back to the original dashboard and take a look at DDEV versions. Let's see if this works. What I want to see is the currently happening things. And I know it's there. So so I can view the users here, and I can take a look at this user ID. I don't have any idea who it is or what, but I can see their event stream and see what kind of things that they're doing. So I could do a query on things that were 1.18.1, for example, and get the event stream out of that using the kind of technique that we were just using. So, like I say, I am in no way an expert on this. In the outline for today, which will be posted when I update the website, and Paul, let me get that for you, because I don't think you can see the chat before you arrive. There we go. Paul found the Saki CLI, so that's good. But does that mean that somebody's done that as a, it looks like it's not for a particular CMS, huh? I'm confused. Okay.
It's like a task runner slash.
Yeah. So I wonder if that's an add-on or what that is. Anyway, in the outline here, there's a number of resources, including the Academy, which has all kinds of training material that I spent some time with, the help, which lost me pretty fast, and of course the link to the DDEV docs about how this works. The DDEV docs also have what you have to do to add a new event or a new piece of data to DDEV's data stream. And that's a little complicated, but hopefully I'll be able to do it again when the time comes. We've tried to keep it updated. Simon Gilly did all this new work with how this works now, and he really dived into it and used their API. And so I feel a little stumbly every time I come to it. So anyway, we're at the end of our time. Any questions or thoughts or anything else? It's fun, isn't it?
This has been fantastic. I didn't know you were doing this in DDEV, so.
Yeah, it's really exciting to look through. Ben, when he was at Platform, was excited by it and poked around at it, and Tyler at Platform, I think, has poked around it, and I think it was considered as an option for Platform. I'm not sure, but this kind of information helps us to understand a whole bunch of things. We can see that people do upgrade. I mean, 1.22.4 has only been out this week, right? Or a week ago, it was released, and already 1,100 people have upgraded. And so this is only showing 1.22 because we're looking at the new data type for 1.22. But we do see that people are in general upgrading, or at least so that's interesting to see.
Thank you. I have one question. All this information seems very useful. Have you already used it in the past for implementing a new feature in DDEV, like knowing that, I mean, getting the idea from that data?
Yeah. So that's really important. So if we look at database, let's see if the database ones here, where are the database? So here's PHP versions, for example. So you probably know that DDEV supports PHP versions back to 5, not doing the right thing there. DDEV supports PHP versions back to 5.6. But what are people actually using? Let's see. I would rather show, I'm going to say 90 days, and I would rather say far more than, the top 5. Here's the top 8. Looks like, so it doesn't look like, so here's PHP 5.6. PHP 5.6 has been used by 5% of the people in the last 90 days, even on v1.22, more than 8.0, which is interesting. And 7.1 is almost gone. Is 7.0 gone? I don't see 7.0 on there. So that tells us that it would not inconvenience users very much if we got rid of 7.0, for example. So that's not a very good answer, but I think as we poke around, Alberto, and try to understand what people actually use, then it helps us to know. So for example, we know people really aren't using Django or Platform, and we can tell that from this. And of course, we would like that to happen. We don't know how to make that happen. But we have lots of features in DDEV that people don't use, and we have lots that people do use. And knowing the ones that are really important to people is critical. So seeing what commands they use is so that does that answer your question, Alberto?
Yes. I was thinking about this ESP 5.6. Seems that DDEV is used for supporting legacy systems.
Yeah, or upgrading them at any rate. So
yeah. So probably it's very important to keep the support for those old versions.
Yeah, of course, that's why we also have things that go so far back as MySQL 5.5, for example, is just so people can bring up an ancient site easily. But there are cases where we should probably not do that anymore. But it's not doing any great harm right now. So the one thing that does happen right now is that we support every year there's a new PHP version. Of course, PHP 8.3 is there right now. We have 1.36% of people using PHP 8.3. Well, every one adds size to the DDEV web server because they're all bundled in there with the current DDEV architecture. And so there comes a point that we probably want to prune those. We don't know what that point is, but there we are. Any other questions or thoughts? I would love to have you explore here, just as we've been doing today, and I'd love to know about your love to know about your discoveries. And feel free to save. Just don't save on top of the existing one unless you have a reason to do. So you can do the save as and give it a good name, and you can make your own dashboards. But what you learn could be really important to DDEV, and would love to have you explore this stuff. So, alrighty, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and look forward to next week. I don't remember what we're doing next week, but we will do it next week. I think next week we'll all be on the same time zone, so it'll be back to the normal time for you Europeans. So
thank you for the session today.
Alrighty, thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.